Welcome to Monk's Temple. Find a comfortable position, and allow your awareness to settle. Let the sounds around you just be sounds. Let the sensations in your body just be sensations. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, except to be here, in this moment, with a gentle curiosity. We begin not at the beginning of a list, but at the very center of your being, with the principle that forms the bedrock of all peace. The inner compass, your unshakable ethical code. Before a tree can reach great heights, it must have roots that run deep and unseen into the nourishing earth. Before you can experience unshakable calm, you must establish an unshakable foundation within. In the wisdom of Buddhism, this is called sila, often translated as virtue or moral discipline. But I invite you to see it not as a restrictive set of rules imposed from the outside, but as the conscious architecture of your inner world. It is the blueprint for a life of integrity, and integrity is the birthplace of true peace. An ethical code, in this deepest sense, is not about what you should avoid, it is about what you choose to cultivate. It is the active construction of a sanctuary for your own spirit. Think of your mind as a beautiful, clear pond. Every action, every word, is a pebble tossed into that pond. Actions born of greed, hatred, or confusion are jagged, heavy stones. They crash in, stirring up silt from the bottom, clouding the water for a long, long time. Your peace is obscured. Actions born of generosity, kindness, and clarity are smooth, polished stones. They sink gently, creating soft, graceful ripples that soon settle, leaving the water's clarity intact. Your ethical code is your commitment to choosing, with increasing awareness, which stones you will throw into the pond of your own consciousness. Buddha provided a timeless map for this in the 5 precepts. They are not commandments, but training principles, like vows you make to your own highest self. They are, to refrain from harming living beings, to refrain from taking what is not freely given, to refrain from sexual misconduct, to refrain from false and harmful speech, and to refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind and lead to heedlessness. These are not about earning a heavenly reward or avoiding punishment. They are profoundly practical. They are about removing the very causes of inner turbulence. When you live in opposition to these principles, you are, in effect, throwing those jagged stones into your own pond. You create agitation, regret, fear of exposure, and a fracture between your actions and your heart. This fracture is where anxiety lives. When you align your life with them, you are doing the most profound inner maintenance. You are clearing the water. You create a foundation of inner trust. You can look yourself in the eye. There is no ghost of a harmful act whispering in the back of your mind, no knot of a lie waiting to unravel. This creates a profound and tangible sense of safety. You are at home within yourself. From this place of inner safety, something remarkable happens. The opinions of others, the slings and arrows of fortune, begin to lose their power to devastate you. Why? Because your sense of worth is no longer brittle, no longer dependent on external validation or the shaky ground of self-deception. It is rooted in the solid earth of your own integrity. I witnessed the power of this principle in the humblest of ways. Years ago, at the monastery, we had an aged apple tree. It bore fruit, but the apples were small, knotty, and often worm-eaten. A visiting gardener, seeing us carefully collect even the most blemished fruit, offered to spray the tree with a powerful pesticide. "You'll have perfect apples," he said. Our eldest monk, Venerable Anand, simply smiled and shook his head. The poison that kills the worm, he said softly, will seep into the soil. It will harm the earthworms that aerate the ground, and the birds that eat the insects. It will cling to the skin of the apple. We would have a perfect-looking fruit, but it would come at the cost of the health of the whole small world around it. We choose the blemished apple and the healthy soil. That decision was a living expression of the first precept, a commitment to non-harming that looked beyond immediate, superficial gain to the wider web of consequence. His peace was not in having perfect apples, but in knowing his actions caused no hidden harm. That is the peace of a grounded ethical code. Your practice this week is this: choose one of the precepts. Not to master it, but to befriend it. Perhaps it is truthful speech. For one day, practice speaking only what is true, but also necessary, and kind. Notice the gaps this creates in your conversation. In those gaps, feel the quiet. That quiet is the sound of your inner sanctuary being strengthened. Or perhaps it is refraining from taking what is not given, which includes not just objects, but time, energy, or credit. Notice the lightness that comes from not grasping. This is how you build your foundation, one conscious stone at a time. When this foundation is secure, you are ready to address the constant flow of experience that pours into your senses. You are ready to become the gardener of your own perception. Buddha described the human experience as having 6 gates: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Through these gates, the entire world flows into us. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts. If these gates are left unguarded, unattended, anything can wander in and take up residence. Your inner world becomes a chaotic marketplace, a garden overrun with whatever seeds the wind blows in. Guarding the sense gates is the practice of wise attention. It is not about shutting the gates and living in a sterile, isolated darkness. It is about becoming the discerning guardian who stands at the threshold and asks, with gentle curiosity, is this nourishing? Is this useful? Is this conducive to peace? You are curating the input to your consciousness, because you understand that what you let in becomes the food for your thoughts, your emotions, and your state of being. Imagine your mind as a pristine white canvas. Every input is a splash of paint. Consume hours of frantic news, argumentative media, and violent imagery. That is splashing dark, chaotic strokes across your canvas, and then wondering why you feel anxious and bleak. Spend time in nature, with gentle music, with uplifting words or silence. That is applying soft, calming hues of blue and green. The canvas, your underlying awareness, remains, but its appearance is entirely shaped by what you expose it to. Guarding the gates means taking responsibility for the palette you use. This is especially crucial at the mind gate, the most prolific and influential gate of all. Here, you are not just receiving external input, but generating endless internal commentary, memory, and fantasy. Unchecked, this becomes a cacophony. A thought arises, I'm not good enough. The untrained mind grabs that thought, believes it, adds evidence to it, and spirals into a story of inadequacy. The trained guardian at the mind gate simply notes, that not good enough story has arrived. It acknowledges the visitor without inviting it in for tea and a long stay. It lets the thought float by like a cloud in the vast sky of awareness. I learned this from a potter in a village near the temple. His studio was always calm, the air still with clay dust. He worked slowly, centering the lump of clay on the wheel. The key, he told me, is not to fight the wobbles. If you push against a wobble hard, you make it worse. You just keep your hands steady, your attention soft and firm on the center, and the wobble, having no resistance to feed on, smooths itself out. He said, your distracting thoughts are like those wobbles. Your focused attention is the steady hands. Don't fight the thoughts. Just gently, incessantly, return to the center, to your breath, to the feel of your hands, to this moment. That is guarding the mind gate. You are not the wobble. You are the steady, centering presence. To cultivate this, we begin with the breath. It is the anchor always with you. For the next few minutes, just follow this breath. In and out. Do not force it. Just observe the gentle rhythm. Your mind will wander. It is its nature. When you notice it has wandered, that noticing is the magic moment. That is the guardian waking up. Without any criticism, simply guide your attention back to the breath. In and out. Each return is a repetition, strengthening the guardian's presence. You are not clearing the canvas forever, you are learning to be the artist who can choose the next brushstroke. This practice of guarding prepares the soil of your mind. When you are not constantly bombarded by chaotic input, the soil becomes fertile, quiet, and ready. And in fertile, quiet soil, a specific, powerful seed can be planted, a seed that transforms your entire relationship with life. In this curated, guarded inner space, we now plant a seed of deliberate transformation. This is the practice of katanuta, gratitude or appreciation. But this is not a passive feeling that happens to you when things go well. This is an active, relentless cultivation. It is the alchemy of taking the raw material of any given moment and finding within it the gold of enough. The untrained mind is a master of scarcity. It is wired to notice what is missing, what is wrong, what could be threatened. This was essential for survival, but it is a miserable way to live in peace. Gratitude is the conscious rewiring. It is the systematic training of your attention to scan for what is present, what is working, what is gifted. Gratitude is the ultimate protection against the petty tyrannies of want. If your happiness is conditional, I will be happy when I get that promotion, when that person likes me, when I lose that weight, you are forever a beggar at the door of the future. Gratitude builds a throne of sufficiency in the present. It says, in this breath, I am alive. In this moment, I am aware. That is the fundamental miracle. Everything else is abundance. Buddha taught that a mind filled with gratitude and appreciation is a mind that is hard to disturb. It is like a deep, clear lake. The winds of change may ruffle the surface, but the depths remain serene and unshaken, because its contentment is not sourced from the fleeting conditions on the surface, but from the profound depth of appreciating existence itself. Let me share a story. There was a woman who came to the temple, we'll call her Sarah. She had lost her business, her life savings, in a sudden economic turn. She was steeped in bitterness and fear. As part of her stay, she was given the simple task of watering the temple's vast vegetable garden every dawn. It was tedious work. But the head gardener gave her one instruction: with each plant you water, name one thing that plant gives you, or gives to the world, even if you can't eat it. The first day, it was a struggle. The lettuce gives green. The tomato gives red. But as days passed, it deepened. The bean vine gives perseverance, it climbs anyway. The basil gives fragrance. The soil gives itself. The water gives life. The sun gives warmth. My hands give service. She told me later that she didn't find a new job in those weeks. But she found a new world. The garden taught her that her life, even in its stripped-down state, was still a network of giving and receiving. Her gratitude was no longer for what she had, but for what she was part of. That shift saved her spirit. When she left, she was not a bankrupt woman, but a rich participant in life. Your practice is this, the gratitude ledger. Before you sleep, take 3 quiet minutes. Name 3 things from your day that you can appreciate. They must be specific. Not my family, but the sound of my child's laugh after school. Not my health, but the feeling of cool water on my throat when I was thirsty. The more specific, the more powerful. You are training your brain scanner. You are telling it, look here. Find the evidence of good. Over time, the scanner will start doing this on its own. You will begin to notice the gift in the ordinary, the functioning of a traffic light, the courtesy of a stranger, the comfort of a worn sweater. This is not naivety, it is the highest form of intelligent perception. It is choosing to see the fundamental benevolence of being alive. When you guard your gates and plant gratitude in the fertile soil, you change your entire stance toward the world. You are no longer a passive victim of circumstance, but an active participant in meaning. And from this stable, grateful ground, you can look out at the people in your life, all of them, and see them in a radically different light. Life presents us with a constant parade of characters. Some bring comfort and joy as naturally as sunlight. Others arrive like sudden storms, with sharp words, challenging behaviors, or perspectives that grate against our own. The untrained instinct is to categorize them simply, friends and foes, supporters and obstacles. But Buddhism offers a radical, liberating reframe. Every single being you encounter is an unrivaled teacher sent to your personal classroom of awakening. This is not spiritual bypassing. It does not mean you must enjoy everyone's company or tolerate abuse. It means you shift the fundamental question from, how can I change or avoid this person, to, what is this person here to reveal to me? The difficult person becomes not a problem to be solved, but a mirror held up to your own hidden edges, your impatience, your pride, your unresolved wounds, your conditional compassion. They show you, with startling clarity, where your inner work remains. Buddha taught that it is easy to develop loving kindness for those who are pleasant to us. The true test, and the true growth, comes from meeting those who are not. In them lies the opportunity to expand the borders of your heart beyond its comfortable territory. The critic teaches you about your attachment to praise. The angry person teaches you about the stability of your own inner weather. The unreliable person teaches you about your expectations and where you place your trust. They are all, in their own imperfect way, relentless guides on your path. I remember a man who began attending our meditation sessions years ago. He was intellectually sharp but carried a bristling, argumentative energy. He would dissect the teachings, challenge every metaphor, his questions often less about understanding and more about showcasing contradiction. For many weeks, I felt a knot form in my stomach when I saw him. I judged him as arrogant, disruptive. My peace felt threatened. Then, I remembered this principle. I decided to see him not as a difficult person, but as my patience and clarity teacher. Instead of preparing defenses against his queries, I began to listen for the fear or loneliness that might be beneath his intellectual armor. I responded not to his debate, but to the human being within it. Slowly, something shifted, not in him at first, but in me. The knot dissolved. I found a calm, grounded place from which to speak. And in time, his questions softened, becoming genuine inquiries. He wasn't the one who changed, I was. By accepting his role as my teacher, I graduated from a class I didn't even know I was taking. Your practice is this: think of one person in your life who currently challenges you. In the quiet of your mind, sincerely offer them this thought: thank you for being my teacher. Show me what I need to see. Then, observe your own reactions in their presence without judgment. What tightens? What story do you tell yourself? That observation is the lesson. The curriculum is your own inner landscape. As we learn to receive lessons from all beings, we naturally refine our own inner navigation system. We begin to ask, if all of life is my school, what is my core subject? What is the central thesis of my existence? This leads us inward, to the principle that gives direction to the entire journey. Amidst the flurry of teachers and lessons, it is possible to become lost, pulled in endless directions by every passing influence. To navigate with purpose, you need a fixed point, a celestial guide that remains constant regardless of the clouds or the time of day. In your inner world, this is your adhina, your resolve, your heartfelt intention. It is your answer to the most important question: what is my life truly for? This is not about a job title or a material goal, though it can inform them. This is the deeper current beneath the surface waves. Is your life for understanding? For love? For service? For awakening? For creativity? For integrity? This core purpose is your inner North Star. When it is clear, the temporary storms of circumstance, criticism, failure, loss, even success, cannot permanently blow you off course. You may be rocked, you may be delayed, but your gaze remains fixed on that star. You recalibrate, and you continue. Without this star, you are a leaf in the wind, believing every gust to be your true direction. You chase approval, security, pleasure, or status, only to find each one a temporary landmark, not true north. The peace that comes from aligning with a deep, personal purpose is of an entirely different quality than the fleeting satisfaction of getting what you want. It is the peace of the river that knows it is flowing to the ocean, undeterred by rocks or bends. I learned about this from a master calligrapher I visited in Kyoto. For 70 years, he had practiced the same few characters. His studio was sparse, his movements slow and deliberate. I asked him, "Don't you wish to create something new, to paint grand landscapes?" He put down his brush and said, "My purpose is not to create novelty. My purpose is to meet this moment, this single stroke, with complete sincerity. The character is just the path. The destination is the quality of my attention." He then showed me a scroll from his youth, one from his middle age, and one from last week. The character was the same. But the presence, the vitality, the peaceful authority embodied in the later strokes was breathtaking. His unwavering purpose, sincere attention, had, over a lifetime, transformed simple ink on paper into a radiating expression of a centered soul. His North Star was not out in the world, it was the quality of his own consciousness. How do you find your North Star? Ask yourself in moments of quiet, when have I felt most authentically myself? What activity makes time dissolve? What cause stirs my heart without my needing to be praised for it? What value is non-negotiable for me? The answers are clues. Your purpose may be as simple as, to live with kindness and curiosity, or, to be a haven of peace for those around me. Once you have a sense of it, write it down. Place it where you will see it. And each morning, before the world's noise begins, take 1 minute to touch that intention. Let it orient you. Today, I will navigate by this star. With this inner compass activated, you gain a new kind of freedom in how you move through the world. You are no longer blindly clinging to every person or experience that comes your way for a sense of direction. This brings us to one of the most liberating, and most misunderstood, of all principles. The word attachment often carries a negative, clinical tone. In Buddhism, it refers specifically to upadana, the grasping, clinging, clutching aspect of the mind. It is the mental fist that closes around a person, a possession, an opinion, a memory, or a desired outcome, and refuses to let go. This grasping, Buddha taught, is the very engine of suffering. We suffer not because things change, which they inevitably do, but because we desperately, painfully insist that they should not. Non-attachment, therefore, is not cold detachment, indifference, or a lack of love. It is the profound opposite. It is the capacity to love more deeply, more freely, because your love is not contingent on controlling the object of your affection. It is the open hand versus the clenched fist. Imagine holding a handful of sand. Clench your fist tightly, and the sand is squeezed out through the gaps between your fingers. Open your hand completely, and the sand is blown away by the wind. But if you cup your hand gently, the sand rests there, held but not imprisoned. You can appreciate its texture, its warmth. And when the wind eventually carries a grain away, you do not panic, because you never believed you owned the sand, you were simply privileged to experience it. This is non-attachment. You fully engage with life, you love your partner, you care for your work, you enjoy your comforts. But you do not nail your happiness to their permanent presence in a specific, unchanging form. You hold them in the cup of your appreciation, not in the fist of your need. A story comes to mind of an elderly woman, a lifelong gardener, who lived next to the temple. Her garden was legendary, a tapestry of color and scent. One year, a fierce hailstorm in late spring shredded the blooms just before the garden festival. Neighbors found her the next morning not in tears, but on her knees, carefully gathering the battered petals. "Look," she said, holding up a ripped peony, "you can see the architecture of the flowers so clearly now. And the scent is even stronger, released." She made potpourri from the ruins and served tea under the scarred trees. She had loved her garden passionately, but she was not attached to its picture-perfect manifestation. She loved the process, the life force itself, and so she found beauty even in its impermanent, storm-tossed state. Her heart was free-flowing, able to find the gift in the loss. Your practice: choose one small thing you are attached to today, perhaps your plan for the evening, your expectation of how a conversation will go, or even your desire for a particular flavor of tea. Consciously soften around it. Do your part, but then release the demand for a specific outcome. I will make the tea, but if we're out of chamomile, the mint will be an adventure. Feel the slight loosening in your chest. That small space is the birthplace of freedom. It is the practice of living with a light touch, of being in the world but not to it by 1,000 tiny threads of, "I need it to be this way." This free-flowing heart is your greatest protection against life's inevitable abrasions. When you are not clinging tightly to how things should be, you are not shattered when they are not. You become resilient, adaptable, like bamboo that bends in the storm but does not break. And with this resilience, you are now prepared to face one of life's most common sources of pain, the sharp words and hurtful actions of others. You will, at times, be handed a sharp stone. It may come in the form of a cruel word, a thoughtless act, a betrayal, or a glaring injustice. The immediate, visceral reaction is to feel the cut, and then, almost instinctively, to seize the stone yourself. You have two choices then: to hurl it back in anger, perpetuating the cycle of hurt, or to pocket it, where it becomes a heavy, secret weight that bruises you from the inside for years to come. Buddhism offers a third way, one of profound strength: to let the stone fall to the ground at your feet. You acknowledge it has been thrown, you feel the wind of its passing, but you do not catch it. You leave it lying there, belonging to the earth, not to you. This teaching hinges on a radical understanding: no one can hurt you without your consent. This does not deny the reality of physical pain or the initial sting of emotional shock. It speaks to the suffering that follows, the resentment, the corroding bitterness, the shattered self-story. That suffering is your consent. It is the choice to take the insult personally, to internalize it as a truth about your worth, to build a home for the hurt inside your mind. When someone acts from a place of hatred, anger, or pettiness, they are, without fail, projecting their own inner storm. Their words are a portrait of their own pain, their confusion, their fear. You have simply walked into the frame. If you can remember this in the moment of impact, everything changes. The insult transforms from a dagger aimed at your soul to a loud, clumsy signal of someone else's inner distress. You can feel a wave of compassion for the storm raging within them, even as you wisely choose not to stand out in their reign. Buddha said, "Hatred never ceases by hatred. By love alone is it healed." This is not passive acquiescence. It is the most strategically potent stance you can take. Responding to hatred with hatred is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. It validates the cycle and burns you both. Responding with calm, clear understanding removes the oxygen. It protects your inner sanctum first. From that place of unshaken peace, you can then choose a skillful action, which may be setting a firm boundary, walking away, or, in rare moments, offering a disarming kindness that breaks the entire script of conflict. I learned this lesson not from a monk, but from a blacksmith in a mountain village. His forge was a place of fire and deliberate force. One day, a man stormed in, furious that a tool had broken, hurling accusations about the smith's skill and honesty. The air grew hot with tension. The blacksmith listened, not moving from his anvil. When the man finished, spent, the smith simply nodded. He walked to a barrel of water, submerged the broken tool, and pulled it out, dripping. He held it up. "The flaw was here," he said, pointing to a nearly invisible crack in the metal. "It was in the ore when it came to me. I did not see it. That is my failing. The heat of your work found it. That is the nature of flaws." He offered to repair it with a new piece of steel, at no cost. The man's anger vanished, replaced by something like shame. Later, I asked the smith how he stayed so calm. He wiped his brow. "When a man yells about metal," he said, "he is never yelling about metal. He is yelling about fear, fear his work will fail, fear he will look weak. If I yell back about my honor, we just have two fears clanging together. I address the flaw in the tool, not the flaw in his yelling. The tool gets fixed. The yelling runs out of fuel. He knew not to catch the stone. Your practice, the next time a sharp word comes your way, create a sacred pause. One breath. In that space, silently say to yourself, this is the sound of their suffering. Do this not as a mantra, but as a sincere lens through which to view the event. Feel the shift inside. The personal sting lessens. The situation becomes something you can observe with clarity rather than be engulfed by. You leave the stone on the ground. To consistently make this choice, you need to understand the very nature of the material that feels so personal, your own stream of thought. We live in a profound trance of identification. We believe our thoughts. I am anxious, we say, as if anxiety is the totality of who we are. I am not enough, we think, and accept it as final verdict. Buddhism gently wakes us from this trance with a simple, life-altering observation: you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that knows the thoughts. Your mind is a prolific, ceaseless generator of content, memories, plans, fantasies, judgments, fears. It is like a sky, and thoughts are the weather that moves through it. Clouds of worry, sunshine of joy, thunderheads of anger, mist of nostalgia. The untrained person believes they are the storm. I am so angry. They are lost in a thundercloud, soaked and blinded. The trained person learns to identify as the sky itself, vast, clear, unchanging, and capable of holding any weather without being permanently altered by it. The storm may be intense, but the sky is not the storm. The sky allows the storm, experiences it, and remains, fundamentally, sky. This is the core of mindfulness meditation. You sit, you feel the breath, and thoughts arise. The instruction is not to stop thinking, an impossible task, but to notice the thought as a thought. Planning. Remembering. Worrying. You label it gently and return to the breath. In that act of noticing and returning, you are performing a miracle. You are stepping out of the weather system and into the perspective of the sky. You are realizing, directly, that you have a thought, but you are not possessed by it. Buddha said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. This is often misunderstood as an injunction to only think positive thoughts. Its deeper meaning is about the power of identification. If you identify with every anxious thought, I am anxiety, you become an anxious person. If you identify as the awareness witnessing anxiety, anxiety is present, you remain free. What you become is determined by what you consistently identify with. The practice is to identify with the silent, spacious witness, not with the passing, chattering content. A powerful insight came to me during a period of intense self-doubt. A project had failed, and my mind was a relentless radio station playing the incompetence hour. I felt defined by the failure. On a long walk, exhausted by the mental noise, I suddenly stopped. I looked at a large, ancient pine tree. It stood there, silent, utterly itself. A thought arose. That tree doesn't wonder if it's a good tree. It just is. In that moment, I saw my own stream of self-critical thoughts as just that, a stream, passing by the rooted being that was me. I was the one standing there, like the tree. The thoughts were like birds landing on the branches and flying away. I didn't have to be the birds. I could be the tree. That shift, from being the content to being the container, changed everything. Your practice. Tonight, as you lie down, for just 5 minutes, practice being the sky. Close your eyes. Imagine your awareness as a boundless, pre-dawn sky, dark blue and infinite. Now, as thoughts or feelings arise, imagine them as weather formations. A pang of today's regret. See it as a small, dark cloud. A plan for tomorrow. A wisp of cirrus. Don't engage with the clouds. Don't analyze their shape. Just notice them appear in the vastness, and notice that the vast sky is not damaged or diminished by them. They are simply there, moving through. You are the sky. This is not a metaphor, it is a direct experience to be felt. It is the discovery of your true, unshakable nature. When you begin to rest as the sky, your relationship with the two most common and paralyzing types of inner weather, fear and shame, naturally begins to transform. You are ready to meet them not as masters, but as passing storms. Fear and shame are the ancient, overzealous guardians of the psyche. Their original, protective purpose has become distorted in the complex landscape of the modern mind. Fear, the guardian against physical threat, now fires incessantly at phantoms of social rejection, future lack, and hypothetical failure. Shame, the guardian who kept the tribe cohesive by enforcing social norms, now turns its brutal gaze inward, attacking the self for past mistakes or perceived inadequacies, long after any tribal consequence has passed. Buddhism does not ask you to conquer or destroy these guardians. It asks you to recognize them, thank them for their misguided attempt to protect you, and then kindly inform them they are no longer needed in this form. You disarm them with the weapon of clear seeing. Fear is almost always fear of a mental movie about the future. It is a story. What if I get sick? What if they say no? What if I'm not capable? The practice is to gently but firmly bring your attention out of the frightening movie and into the sensory reality of now. Ask, right now, in this moment, am I safe? Am I breathing? Is there a tiger in the room? Almost always, the answer is that you are physically safe in the present. Fear shrivels in the direct light of present moment awareness. It cannot survive there. It needs the dark theater of the future to project its images. You acknowledge the fear, fear is here. And then you anchor in the bed beneath you, the sound of your breath, the feeling of your hands. You starve the story of its fuel. Shame is a deeper, stickier fog. It says, I am bad. I am flawed at my core. The healing for shame is not logic, but a radical, unconditional friendliness directed at yourself. In Buddhism, this is metta, loving kindness, turned inward. Shame thrives in isolation and self-loathing. It dissolves in the warm, connected light of shared humanity and self-compassion. The practice is to meet the ashamed part of you not as an enemy to be exiled, but as a wounded child to be embraced. You can place a hand on your heart and say, this is a moment of suffering. This too is part of being human. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am in this moment. I carried a quiet shame for years over a time I had acted selfishly as a young man, causing someone pain. It was a shadow that colored my sense of worth. During a long retreat focused on forgiveness, the teacher asked us to write a letter of compassion to ourselves at the age we felt most ashamed. Writing to my 20-year-old self, I didn't offer excuses. I simply acknowledged his confusion, his fear, his desire to be loved that had taken such a clumsy form. I wrote, "I see you. I forgive you. I love you." As I read it aloud to myself, alone in my room, the shadow didn't vanish, but it lost its power to define me. It became simply a chapter, a painful lesson learned, integrated into the whole story of my life, not a verdict on it. Your practice: when you feel the cold grip of fear, name it. Fear. Then, name 3 things you can physically feel right now. The blanket. My heartbeat. The air on my face. Feel the anchor of the present. When you feel the hot flush of shame, name it. Shame. Then, place your hand over your heart. Feel its warmth. Offer yourself the simplest kindness: it's okay. Everyone feels this sometimes. I am worthy of love, especially now. By disarming these inner guardians, you reclaim vast territories of your inner world for peace. You are no longer held hostage by old stories or future phantoms. You are free to live in alignment with the most profound teacher of all, the natural world itself, and your own true nature within it. As we settle deeper into this shared stillness, let the principles we've explored so far begin to blend and soften within you, like colors merging on a quiet pond. There is no test, only a gradual unfolding. Now, let us turn our attention to a principle that is not about doing, but about being in harmony with the deepest rhythms of existence. It is about aligning your life so perfectly with the way things are that struggle falls away, and a natural ease takes its place. There is an intelligence in nature that operates without force. The bamboo bends in the wind, the river finds the path of least resistance, the seasons turn without a sound. For centuries, monks and seekers have looked to this intelligence as the ultimate guide for human life. To live according to this principle is to understand that you are not separate from this natural order, you are an expression of it. Your body follows its cycles, your mind has its tides, and the universe unfolds in patterns of breathtaking complexity and simplicity. The suffering begins when you set yourself in opposition to this flow, when you rage against the changing seasons of your life, when you resist the natural decay of things, when you try to force a river to run uphill. Think of a master archer. The goal is not to muscle the arrow to the target through sheer will. The goal is to become so aligned. Body, breath, bow, and intention, that the release of the arrow feels inevitable, a natural unfolding. The archer does not fight the wind, they understand it and adjust. They do not cling to the bowstring, they release it at the precise moment of harmony. Your life is the bow. Your actions are the arrow. Peace is found in the alignment, not in the frantic effort to control every variable. This is the art of flowing with the Tao, with Dharma, with the natural law. I remember an old ferryman on the Ganges near the temple. He had been crossing the wide, powerful river for 60 years. I asked him once if he ever fought the current. He laughed, a sound like dry reeds. Fight her. She would win in a heartbeat. You learn her moods. The strong current in the rainy season pulls you downstream, you point the boat upstream of where you want to land, and she carries you to the spot. In the dry season, she is sleepy and wide, you row with patience. The river is not your enemy. She is the journey itself. Your job is to listen, to adjust, to respect. He lived in a profound, nonverbal dialogue with the river. His life was one of effortless right action, because his action was a response, not an imposition. He was living in accord with nature, and in doing so, he had found a peace as deep as the river itself. To bring this into your own life, begin by observing the natural impulses you often override. The body's signal for rest, ignored for one more task. The mind's need for quiet, drowned out by more noise. The heart's gentle pull towards compassion, overruled by haste or judgment. Each time you ignore these natural whispers, you create a small tear in your harmony. The practice is to listen. Before acting from habit or urgency, pause. Take one conscious breath and ask your whole being, what is the natural response here? It may be to slow down. It may be to speak. It may be to wait. Trust that intelligence. It is older and wiser than your frantic, planning mind. This alignment extends to accepting the fundamental truth of impermanence. Nature teaches this in every falling leaf, in every fading sunset. Nothing is meant to stay. The flower's beauty is in its brief, glorious bloom, not in a demand for eternal plastic bloom. When you internally consent to this law, that relationships change, careers evolve, health fluctuates, and all things pass. You stop wasting your life's energy on the impossible task of building a dam against the river of time. You learn to love the flower even as you see the petal about to fall. This acceptance is not resignation, it is the ultimate liberation into the present moment. It allows you to cherish what is here because it will not always be. From this place of harmonious alignment, where you are no longer fighting reality, a beautiful clarity emerges. You begin to see your own mind and its patterns with the same detached, compassionate curiosity with which you might watch clouds form and dissolve. This brings us to the heart of a practice that is both the path and the destination, the cultivation of mindful awareness. The modern world trains you in distraction. It is a constant pull away from the present moment, into the past via memory, into the future via planning, into other places via screens and stories. Mindfulness is the gentle but firm decision to come home. To inhabit this body, in this breath, in this room, right now. It is the practice of being a gracious host to your own experience, whatever it may be, without immediately trying to change the channel. Imagine your awareness is a vast, clear mountain lake. The things that happen, sounds, thoughts, sensations, are like weather on the surface. A breeze of memory ripples the water. A rain of worry patters down. A warm sun of joy breaks through. Mindfulness is the practice of knowing you are the entire lake, not just the weather on the surface. You can feel the ripples, but you are not overturned by them. You can see the rain, but you are not dissolved by it. You learn to rest in the depths, where it is always still, silent, and clear. The formal practice is simple, though not always easy. You sit. You feel the breath. The mind wanders. You notice it has wandered. Without any criticism, you gently guide your attention back to the breath. That is all. That moment of noticing and returning is a moment of awakening. It is a repatterning of your entire nervous system. It is a vote for presence over panic, for calm over chaos. Each return is like a drop of water wearing away the stone of your habitual distraction. I learned the profundity of this simple act from a grandmother in a remote village. She spent hours each day weaving intricate patterns on a handloom. I asked her how she maintained such focus on the repetitive task. She said, "I am not focusing on the weaving. I am listening to the loom." She explained that the shuttle's clack-clack, the treadle's thump, the gentle pull of the thread. These were her anchors. "My mind is the thread," she said. "When it flies away into a daydream or a worry, the sound of the shuttle calls it back. The pattern grows, and my mind grows quiet, held by the rhythm." Her weaving was her meditation. Her mindfulness was not separate from her life, it was the very thread with which she wove it. You need not sit on a cushion for hours to begin. Start with one daily activity. Make your morning coffee or tea with full attention. Feel the weight of the kettle, the sound of the water, the smell of the grounds, the warmth of the cup in your hands. When your mind runs ahead to the day, gently bring it back to the steam rising. That is your practice. You are training the muscle of attention, and a strong attention is the cornerstone of an unshakable mind. It allows you to see what is actually happening, rather than being lost in the story about what is happening. And from this place of clear seeing, you are empowered to make the most fundamental choice of all, the choice of how you will meet the world. This brings us to a principle that is the active expression of your inner harmony. It is the decision to engage with life not from a place of lack or defense, but from a profound sense of enoughness and connection. It is the conscious cultivation of a quality that can soften the hardest heart and brighten the darkest day. Consider the humble honeybee. It visits flower after flower, not to deplete them, but to partake of their nectar and, in doing so, carry pollen from one to the other, enabling new life. The bee's action is one of mutual sustenance. It takes what it needs for the hive, and in the process, it ensures the continuation of the very beauty it depends on. Your engagement with the world can be like this. You can choose to move through your days as a passive consumer, extracting what you can for your own comfort, or you can choose to move as a pollinator of goodness. This is the essence of compassionate action. It is not a grand, sacrificial gesture, but a default setting of the heart that has realized its interconnection with all things. When you truly see that no one is an island, that your peace is tied to the peace of the person next to you, and theirs to the next, your actions naturally begin to align with the well-being of the whole. You speak a kind word not because you will get something back, but because you see the weariness in a stranger's eyes and your connected heart wishes to offer a moment of relief. You perform a small task with care, because you understand that your work is part of a larger tapestry. This is the living expression of the understanding that we are all in this together. Buddha called this karu, compassion that is moved by the suffering of others and wishes to see it relieved. But it begins with a softer, more foundational quality, metta, or loving kindness. This is the unconditional wish for happiness and well-being, for yourself and others. It is a mental attitude you can cultivate, like tending a fire. You start with yourself. It can feel strange at first. Sit quietly and offer these phrases to yourself: may I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Do not demand to feel a certain way. Just offer the words as seeds planted in the heart. Then, extend it to a loved one, a neutral person, even a difficult person, and finally to all beings everywhere. This practice is not magical thinking. It is a recalibration of your inner compass away from isolation and toward kinship. I saw this embodied in a street sweeper in the ancient city of Varanasi. His job was to clean the alleys before dawn, a task most would consider lowly and thankless. Yet, he performed it with a kind of sacred grace. He knew every shopkeeper, every stray dog, every sleeping pilgrim in a doorway. He would sweep carefully around them, sometimes leaving a fresh flower on a step where he knew someone was ill. He didn't see himself as cleaning dirt, he saw himself as preparing a sacred path for the day's life to unfold. His compassion was in his attention, his care for the details of a shared world. His action, though small, was a powerful force for harmony in his corner of the universe. Your practice is this: one small, anonymous act of kindness today. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you. Leave a genuine compliment for a colleague. Pick up a piece of litter. Do it not for recognition, but as an experiment. Notice how it makes you feel. That feeling, a subtle warmth, a slight expansion in the chest, is the truth of interconnection. It is the proof that what you do for the web, you do for yourself. This is how you build a life that is not just peaceful for you, but contributes to the peace of the whole. It is the final, beautiful expression of an unshakable mind, a heart that is actively, gently, unshakably kind. Let the space around you hold you as we continue this journey inward, not as a race to a finish line, but as a deepening into truths that have always been within you. We have spoken of harmony, of mindfulness, of compassion flowing from a connected heart. Now, let us turn to a principle that deals with the raw material of our daily experience, the persistent, often unnoticed force that shapes our reality more than we know. It is the quiet power of our habitual thoughts, and the revolutionary act of choosing new ones. There is a story told of two wolves that live inside every person. One is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. They are in a constant battle. A child asks, which wolf wins? The elder replies, the one you feed. This ancient parable points to a core Buddhist truth: your mind is shaped by what you consistently give attention to. Your life follows the shape of your mind. You are, in every moment, cultivating a worldview. Not in a grand, philosophical sense, but in the micro-moments of mental choice. You hear a piece of news and think, the world is doomed. That is a seed planted in the garden of your mind. You see a stranger help another and think, there is goodness everywhere. That is a different seed. The garden you have tomorrow depends entirely on which seeds you watered today. This is not positive thinking in the naive sense of denying difficulty. It is strategic thinking. It is the understanding that your perception is an active, creative force, and you have a responsibility, and the ability, to guide it towards what is wholesome, true, and useful for peace. Think of your mind as a radio, constantly receiving signals on many frequencies. There is the frequency of worry, the frequency of criticism, of self and others, the frequency of nostalgia, the frequency of planning. The practice is to become the conscious operator of this radio. When you find yourself tuned to a station that brings agitation or despair, you acknowledge it. Ah, I'm on Worry FM again. And then, without judgment, you turn the dial. You might tune to the frequency of gratitude, or of sensory awareness, the feel of the air, the sound of the room, or of simple curiosity. You are not suppressing the worry station. You are simply choosing not to listen to it exclusively. Over time, the stations you frequent become stronger, their signal clearer, until they become your default channels. I witnessed a profound example of this in a friend who overcame a period of deep depression. His mind was a swamp of negative loops. His therapist gave him a strange assignment, to carry a small notebook and, every hour, write down one sentence that was objectively, undeniably true and neutral. Not positive, just neutral. The clock says 2:17. My shoe is brown. A bird is singing outside. For weeks, he did this mechanically. But slowly, he reported a shift. The practice forced a wedge into his relentless negative narrative. It created a pause, a moment of pure, unadorned observation. In that pause, he remembered he was not the story, he was the one observing the story. From that foothold of neutral awareness, he could then choose a slightly more compassionate thought. The clock says 2:17, and I am still here, breathing. He was relearning how to operate his own radio, starting with the simple act of finding a clear, static-free signal of bare attention. Your practice is this: for the next day, set an intention to catch yourself in the act of feeding the unhelpful wolf. When you notice a spiral of complaint, worry, or self-criticism, simply pause. Don't fight it. Just say to yourself, noticing. Then, deliberately feed the other wolf. Find one thing in your immediate environment that is beautiful, functional, or interesting. The light on that wall is lovely. This pen writes smoothly. I can hear children playing in the distance. This is not denial. It is balance. It is democracy of attention. You are retraining your mind to see the whole picture, not just the shadow. As you become more skilled at guiding your inner narrative, you will naturally begin to question the deeper stories you have carried about yourself for years. Stories about your capabilities, your worth, your place in the world. These are often the source of our most entrenched limitations. This brings us to the delicate work of examining the architecture of the self. We walk through life wearing a suit of armor called me. It is constructed of memories, opinions, accomplishments, failures, roles, and identities. I am a teacher. I am an anxious person. I am a failure. I am a success. We believe this armor is our skin, our very self. Buddhism invites you to do a radical thing, to examine the seams of this armor. To tap on it and listen. Is it solid? Or is it hollow? Is it you, or is it something you are wearing? The teaching of anatta, often translated as non-self, is not a nihilistic claim that you don't exist. It is a liberating insight that what you typically call me is a fluid, interdependent process, not a fixed, solid entity. Your body is changing constantly. Your thoughts are a passing parade. Your emotions are weather. Your memories are stories you tell. Where, in all this flowing, is the permanent, unchanging I that owns it all. When you look closely, you can't find it. You find only the flow itself. This realization can be unsettling at first, but it is the gateway to ultimate freedom. If there is no solid, fragile self to protect, defend, and inflate, then what is hurt by an insult? What is threatened by change? What needs to be constantly approved? Imagine you are a river. You have a name, the Mississippi, the Ganges. You have characteristics, muddy, fast, wide. But are you the water in the river right now? No, that water is already gone to the sea. Are you the riverbank? No, that changes with erosion and flood. The river is a process, a happening, a verb. You are like that. A happening of body, mind, and experience. When you stop identifying as a static noun, a successful person, a damaged person, and start experiencing yourself as a dynamic verb, a happening of awareness, a process of learning, you are freed from the tyranny of the biography. You are free to simply be, here, now, fresh. A master potter once showed me his kiln. He explained that the clay's final strength and beauty came from a process called vitrification, where the particles fuse at high heat, losing their individual boundaries to become a single, strong, ceramic whole. He said, the clay must be willing to let go of being clay to become the bowl. The self is like that. It must be willing to let go of being a small, separate story to become part of the great happening. He wasn't talking about annihilation. He was talking about transformation into something more resilient, more interconnected, more real. Your practice: sit quietly and ask yourself, who am I? Listen for the answers that come. I am John, a father, a programmer, a worried person. See each answer as a label, a piece of clothing. Gently set each one aside and ask again, but who is aware of these labels? Don't seek a verbal answer. Rest in the silence that follows the question. In that silent, aware space, before the next thought arises, is a taste of the you that is prior to all stories. It is not a thing you can define. It is the awareness itself, vast and peaceful. Visit this space often. It is your true home. From this space of open, storyless awareness, you can engage with the world in the most powerful way imaginable, not from a place of egoic need, but from a place of clear, compassionate purpose. This is the final integration. The point where all the principles converge into a way of being. Consider the image of a lighthouse. It stands on a rocky shore, unmoving. Storms rage around it. Waves crash against its base. Fog rolls in, obscuring everything. Yet, the lighthouse does not fight the storm, nor does it run from it. Its foundation is built deep into the bedrock. Its light turns in a steady, relentless rhythm, cutting through the fog, unaffected by the chaos. It does not shout at the ships to be careful. It simply does its job, it shines. It is a constant, reliable presence because it is aligned with its purpose and built on a foundation that cannot be shaken. This is the embodiment of an unshakable mind. You have built your foundation through ethical living, sila. You have cultivated steadiness through mindfulness and concentration, samadhi. You have developed the clarity of wisdom, panna, by seeing the nature of your thoughts and the empty, fluid nature of the self. Now, you shine. Your presence itself, calm, clear, kind, becomes a light for your own path and a quiet beacon for others. Your actions are no longer reactions, they are responses born from this deep center. You meet difficulty not as a personal affront, but as another wave against the rock. You meet joy not with clinging, but with a grateful, open heart. You are in the world, but the storm of the world cannot topple you, because you are anchored in something deeper. Buddha's final instruction to his disciples was poignant: be a lamp unto yourselves. Be a refuge unto yourselves. Take to yourselves no external refuge. This is the ultimate message of empowerment. The peace you seek is not in a distant heaven, in a perfect relationship, or in a bank account. It is in the diligent, loving cultivation of your own mind and heart. You have all the tools within you. The lamp is your awareness. The oil is your mindful attention. The flame is your compassionate intention. Your job is to tend it, guard it, and let it shine. So, as we near the end of our exploration, carry this image of the lighthouse with you. You are not asked to become impervious to feeling. You are invited to become so rooted in your true nature that feelings can wash through you without eroding your peace. You are not asked to withdraw from the world. You are invited to engage with it from a place of such inner integrity that your very presence becomes a subtle force for healing. The journey does not end here. It begins anew with each breath, each choice, each moment you remember who you truly are, not the storm, but the stillness that knows the storm. Not the story, but the awareness that reads the story. Not a fragile self to be protected, but a boundless presence, awake, compassionate, and unshakably free. Let the silence around you now become a teacher. It is in this quiet space, away from the world's chatter, that the most subtle truths begin to make themselves known. We have navigated the landscape of thought, examined the stories of self, and found an anchor in aware presence. Now, let us explore a principle that is like the subtle fragrance of a flower, often unnoticed, but with the power to transform the entire atmosphere of a room, of a life. It is the principle of deep listening, of receiving the world not through the filter of your opinions, but through the openness of a quiet heart. So much of our communication is not really communication at all. It is a monologue disguised as dialogue. While another person speaks, we are often half listening, half composing our response, preparing our defense, or categorizing their words into boxes labeled right or wrong. We listen through a mesh screen of our own preconceptions. True listening, in the deepest sense, is an act of surrender. It is the temporary setting aside of the self to make room for the reality of another. It is a sacred offering of your attention, the most precious gift you can give. Imagine your mind as a still pond. Most of the time, the surface is choppy with your own thoughts and reactions, your own ripples. When someone speaks, their words are like pebbles tossed into your pond. If the surface is already disturbed, the pebble creates a chaotic, muddled pattern. You don't see the true shape or depth of the impact. But if you can first calm your own waters, through a breath, through an intention to simply receive, then when the pebble drops, you can see its entry with perfect clarity. You see the concentric circles it makes, you sense its weight. You understand it from its own center, not from your disturbance. This is deep listening. You are not just hearing words. You are perceiving the emotion, the need, the unspoken story behind them. Buddha was called the one who hears the sounds of the world, an epitome of compassionate listening. He did not just hear complaints and questions, he heard the cry for freedom within them. When you practice this, you do more than understand someone, you validate their very existence. You say, without words, I see you. You matter. Your experience is real. This kind of listening is a profound healing force, both for the speaker and, surprisingly, for the listener. In the act of pure reception, your own noisy self-concern temporarily dissolves. You experience a moment of selfless connection, which is a taste of peace. I learned this from an old doctor in a rural clinic. He would see dozens of patients a day with very limited resources. I expected him to be rushed, diagnostic, brief. But he wasn't. With each person, he would do the same thing. He would stop writing, put down his pen, turn his whole body to face them, and simply look at them, listening, for a full minute before he even asked a question. He called it, listening to the silence before the symptoms. He said, most people come with a story of illness wrapped around a core of loneliness or fear. If I only hear the wrapper, I will treat the wrapper. If I listen to the silence around their words, I sometimes hear the core. And treating the core is where true healing begins. His patients didn't just get medicine, they felt witnessed. And in that witnessing, their own capacity for healing was activated. Your practice, in your next conversation, with anyone, make it a meditation. Pause your inner commentary. Look at the person. Listen to their words, but also to the tone, the pause, the energy behind them. When the urge to interrupt or formulate your reply arises, simply feel it and let it pass, like a cloud, and return to listening. You will be amazed at what you hear, and even more amazed at the quality of connection that blossoms in the space you create. This quality of open, receptive attention naturally flows into how you meet the experiences of your own life. It becomes a way of being present with joy and with pain without immediately seeking to possess the one or reject the other. This brings us to the heart of a practice that turns every moment into a ceremony of awareness. There is a Zen saying, when walking, just walk. When sitting, just sit. But above all, don't wobble. This is the essence of bringing mindfulness into action. It is the practice of full engagement. You are not just mechanically performing a task while your mind is on holiday in the past or future. You are bringing the fullness of your awareness to the simple act of your life unfolding. Washing a dish, you feel the warmth of the water, see the glint of light on the soap bubbles, hear the soft clink of porcelain. You are fully alive in that act. There is a dignity and a peace in this that transforms the mundane into the sacred. Think of a master craftsperson, whether a carpenter, a chef, or a gardener. Their skill is not just in their knowledge, but in their utter presence. The carpenter feels the grain of the wood under the plane, hears the specific sound of a clean cut. The chef tastes with total attention, balancing flavors not by formula but by presence. The gardener feels the soil's moisture, notices the slight change in a leaf's color. They are in a silent, intimate dialogue with their materials. This is mindfulness in action. It is a state of flow where the doer and the deed become one. In that unity, there is no separate self to feel burdened, bored, or anxious. There is only the dance of creation and attention. This is not about slowing down to a crawl. It is about bringing a unified mind to whatever speed is required. A heart surgeon is intensely mindful, moving with speed and precision, completely one with the procedure. The mind is not elsewhere. It is right here, in the life and death dance. Your life may not have such dramatic stakes, but the principle is the same. Whether you are typing an email, playing with a child, or driving in traffic, you can do it with a unified mind. You are fully there. The result is that you do it better, with less stress, and you extract the hidden nectar of aliveness from the experience itself. I once watched a stone carver at work on a temple facade. For hours, his mallet and chisel went tap 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 in a steady rhythm. I asked if the repetition ever became tedious. He paused and said, "Each tap is different. The stone speaks back. A tiny flake here, a slight resistance there. My job is to listen with my hands and my eyes. I am not carving a statue. The statue is already inside the stone. I am just having a conversation with it, tap by tap, to help it find its way out." For him, his work was a lifelong meditation in attentive dialogue. He found profound meaning and peace not in the finished product, but in the quality of attention he brought to each singular, unique tap. Your practice: choose one routine activity today, brushing your teeth, walking to your car, eating a meal. For the duration of that activity, let it be your entire universe. Engage every sense. When your mind wanders, and it will, gently guide it back to the sensations of the activity. Be the stone carver, listening to the unique conversation of this moment. You are not just brushing your teeth, you are discovering what it is to be fully alive while brushing your teeth. As you cultivate this unified presence in action, you will begin to notice a subtle shift in your energy. You will feel less drained by tasks, more nourished by simple presence. This conserved and focused energy becomes available for something greater. It becomes the fuel for a final, integrative principle, the cultivation of a heart that actively wishes for the well-being of all things, a practice that completes the circle of inner peace by radiating it outward. The journey inward, if it is genuine, must ultimately turn outward again. It is not for isolation, but for integration. The peace you find is not a jewel to be hoarded in a dark cave. It is a light that, by its nature, must shine. The final principle is about consciously directing the warmth of that light. It is the practice of Brahmaviharas, the sublime abidings, loving kindness, metta, compassion, karu, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. These are not just feelings, they are attitudes you can cultivate, mental muscles you can strengthen. Start with metta, loving kindness. Sit quietly. Place a hand on your heart. Silently offer these wishes to yourself: may I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Do this for a few minutes each day. It may feel awkward or hollow at first. Persist. You are planting seeds in hard soil. Then, extend it outward, like ripples in a pond. Picture a loved one: may you be safe, healthy, at ease. Then a neutral person, a difficult person, and finally all beings everywhere. This is not a magical spell to change others. It is an exercise to change your own heart, to break down the subconscious barriers of us and them, and to water the seeds of inherent connection. From metta flows karu, compassion, the wish to relieve suffering when you see it. This moves you to action, however small. A kind word, a helping hand, a patient ear. Mudita is sympathetic joy, the ability to rejoice in the happiness and success of others, free from envy. It is the antidote to comparison, which is the thief of joy. Finally, upekkha is equanimity, the balanced, wise heart that remains steady in the face of life's inevitable ups and downs, understanding the law of cause and effect for all beings. It is not cold indifference, but a spacious, compassionate non-attachment that allows you to help without burning out. These four are like the legs of a table. A table with only one or two legs is unstable. A heart that cultivates all four finds a stable, radiant balance. You love without clinging, you serve without expectation, you rejoice without jealousy, and you remain calm amidst the flux. There is a story of an old lamplighter in a city that still had gas street lamps. Every evening at dusk, he would make his rounds with his long pole, lighting each lamp. A child asked him, "Aren't you sad that your lamps only shine for others walking the streets? You are always behind, in the dark, lighting the way ahead for someone else." The old man smiled. "My boy," he said, "the light I give to them shines back on me. I walk in a glow of my own making. And besides, I see all their faces illuminated by the light. That is my real light." His action was a perfect embodiment of the Brahmaviharas. He performed a service, compassion, he took joy in the lit faces and safe paths of others, sympathetic joy, he did it without need for personal thanks, equanimity, and it all sprang from a fundamental goodwill for his fellow citizens, loving kindness. His inner peace was not separate from his outer action, it was the source and the result. Your practice, before you sleep tonight, spend 5 minutes in this cultivation. Start with yourself. Then send these wishes to someone you love, to someone you feel neutral about, to someone who has caused you difficulty, and finally to all beings in your city, your country, the world. May all beings be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. Do not worry if it feels conceptual. You are training the inclination of the heart. Over time, this inclination will begin to color your thoughts, your words, and your deeds. You will become a subtle force for peace, not by preaching, but by the very quality of your being. And so, we arrive at a completion that is also a beginning. You have been given a map, 10 principles, 10 ways of seeing and being. But the map is not the territory. The territory is your own life, your own breath, your own next moment. The work is not to memorize the map, but to walk the path. To stumble, to get up, to forget, and to remember again. The peace you seek is not a distant destination. It is the quality of attention you bring to the steps themselves. It is in the listening, in the present action, in the kindly wish. It is here. It is now. It is in you. You are not becoming peaceful. You are remembering that, beneath the weather of thought and emotion, you have always been peace itself. Welcome to the final gathering within Monk's Temple. Here, in this quiet space, we do not end our journey, but we bring all the threads together into a single, seamless tapestry. We have explored principles not as separate rules, but as facets of a single diamond of awareness. Now, let us behold the whole gem. Let us understand how these teachings cease to be practices and become the very ground of your being. This is the integration, where you stop doing Buddhism and start being the peace you sought. Imagine a great, ancient tree. For hours, we have examined its parts. The deep roots of ethical integrity, the strong trunk of steadfast purpose, the branches of mindful action, the leaves that breathe in gratitude and exhale compassion, the flexible resilience that allows it to bend in the storm of insult without breaking. We have sat in its shade, learning from the teachers, both gentle and fierce, that perch upon its limbs. We have listened to the wind through its leaves, the sound of the mind's true nature. Now, step back. See the entire tree. It does not think about being a tree. It simply is. It lives in perfect, silent dialogue with the sun, the soil, the rain, and the seasons. It is an expression of life, unwavering in its treeness. This is the state of integration. You are that tree. The principles are not additives, they are your very nature, remembered and embodied. The core revelation of the Buddha was not a philosophy, but a profound and simple recognition of cause and effect within the mind. Suffering exists. It has a cause, craving and clinging. It has an end, the cessation of that craving. And there is a path to that end. The 10 principles we have walked are that path, made practical for a human life. They are the medicine for the specific ailment of inner turbulence. But once the medicine has done its work, you are left not with the medicine, but with health. Health does not need to be remembered, it simply functions. So it is with an unshakable mind. You are not holding 10 rules in your head. You are living from a heart that has been clarified, a mind that has been steadied, a perception that has been cleansed. So, what does this look like in the raw, unfiltered reality of a Tuesday? It looks like waking up and, before the mind grabs its list of demands, feeling the miracle of consciousness returning. It is the space between sleep and thought, where you simply are. From that space, you set your inner compass, not with a forceful declaration, but with a gentle inclination. Today, may I be awake. May I be kind. This is your North Star, felt rather than recited. It looks like drinking your morning tea, and for 30 seconds, really drinking it. The heat of the cup, the aroma, the taste blooming on your tongue. In those 30 seconds, you are whole. The meeting you dread later, the email you must send, does not exist. There is only tea. This is mindfulness, not as a seated task, but as a flavor of attention you sprinkle throughout your day. It looks like the driver who cuts you off in traffic. There is the immediate flare in the chest, the ancient guardian of threat barking. And then, in the space of one breath, you feel it. You see the frantic energy of the other car not as a personal attack, but as a moving portrait of someone else's hurry, fear, or struggle. You might even whisper, "May you be safe." The flare cools. Your peace remains intact. This is becoming ungraspable, transforming insult and practicing compassion, all in a 6-second symphony. It looks like receiving criticism at work. The old story of, "I'm not good enough," rises like a familiar ghost. But now, you see it as a ghost, a thought form, not a truth. You can look at it, say, "Ah, the old story," and then turn your attention to the content of the feedback itself. Is there something useful here for me to learn? This is guarding your mind gate and understanding the mind is not personal. You receive the information without the poison of self-condemnation. It looks like feeling tired at 3 p.m. Instead of pushing through with caffeine and grit, you pause. You listen to the body's whisper. You take 5 minutes to close your eyes and breathe, or to step outside and feel the sun on your face. This is living according to nature, honoring your own natural rhythm rather than the artificial whip of productivity. It looks like lying in bed at night. The mind wants to replay the day's mistakes or pre-live tomorrow's challenges. Instead, you feel the weight of your body on the mattress. You find 3 tiny victories of goodness from the day: the sincere "thank you" from a colleague, the way the light fell through the window in the afternoon, the warm food that nourished you. This is weaponizing gratitude, building a fortress of enough against the siege of lack. You fall asleep not in rehearsal or regret, but in the gentle arms of appreciation. This is the alchemy. The principles cease to be things to do and become ways of seeing. They are the lenses through which you perceive the world. A difficult person becomes your patience teacher. A setback becomes a lesson in non-attachment. A moment of beauty becomes an invitation to pure presence. You are not fighting life, you are dancing with it, and the 10 principles are your dance steps, now learned so deeply they feel like your own natural movement. Throughout our time, I have shared stories of potters, gardeners, ferrymen, and doctors. These were not mere illustrations. They were meant to show you that this wisdom is not locked in ancient texts or remote monasteries. It is alive in the way anyone, anywhere, chooses to meet their life with attention, integrity, and heart. But now, I must tell you the most important story. It is not my story. It is yours. Your life is already a library of teachings. Every moment of joy you've clung to too tightly taught you about impermanence. Every heartbreak taught you about the cost of attachment and the resilience of the spirit. Every time you forgave, you learned about freedom. Every time you judged, you learned about the prison of the mind. You do not need new stories. You need to reread your own with the eyes of wisdom. See your past not as a chain of regrets and trophies, but as a curriculum perfectly designed for your awakening. The difficult parent was your first teacher in boundaries or compassion. The lost opportunity taught you about self-worth not tied to external validation. The great love taught you the beauty and the pain of deep connection. Sit with that for a moment. Review your own history not as a novel you are the hero or victim of, but as a training ground. What has it been trying to teach you? The answer is not a bitter pill, it is the key to unlocking the cage of your personal narrative. When you see your own life as your primary sutra, your most relentless teacher, then nothing that has happened is wasted. It all becomes grist for the mill of awakening. We began by calling this place Monk's Temple. But the true temple was never a building of wood and stone. The Buddha's final words were, "Be a lamp unto yourselves. Be a refuge unto yourselves. You are the temple. Your disciplined, kind heart is the shrine. Your clear, present awareness is the altar flame. Your ethical conduct is the foundation that keeps it steady through earthquakes of emotion." This inner temple is not a fragile thing. It is not a house of cards that collapses at the first strong wind. It is more like a mountain. Storms rage on its slopes, storms of loss, of fear, of change. Sunlight warms its peaks, moments of joy, connection, peace. Seasons turn. The mountain does not care. It does not celebrate the sun or mourn the storm. It simply is, immense, grounded, unshakable. It allows all weather to pass over it. Your true nature is that mountain. The thoughts and feelings are the weather. You have spent a lifetime identifying with the weather, believing you were the storm cloud or the fleeting patch of sun. Now, you are remembering you are the mountain. This is not a metaphor to believe, but an experience to inhabit. In moments of stillness, you can feel it, the solid, silent, unwavering presence that is you, prior to all stories. From this place of being the mountain, the purpose of all the principles becomes luminously clear. They are not to create a pleasant weather system forever, an impossibility. They are to help you stop confusing yourself with the weather, so you can rest as the mountain, in rain or shine. The ethical code ensures your actions don't create internal earthquakes that destabilize your own foundation. Mindfulness is the practice of feeling your mountainness. Non-attachment is the understanding that the weather is not you. Compassion is the mountain's stable presence offering shelter to others caught in their own storms. And so, we come not to an end, but to a silent understanding. The voice guiding you through these words will fade. The concepts will settle. What remains is you, here, breathing. The path continues. It continues in your next breath. It continues in your next choice. It continues in the quiet space you create between stimulus and reaction. There is no certificate of completion for a life of peace. It is a moment-to-moment choice, a gentle, relentless returning. You will forget. You will get caught in an old story, swept up by a storm of emotion, lost in the marketplace of want. This is not failure. This is the path. The moment you notice you have forgotten, that moment of waking up and saying, "Ah, I am lost again," that is the most sacred moment of all. That is the practice. In that noticing, you are already found. You have already returned to the mountain. Treat yourself with immense kindness in that moment. It is the only moment that ever exists. Therefore, do not seek a state where nothing affects you. That is numbness. Seek the state where everything affects you, but nothing shatters you. Where you feel the full spectrum of this human experience, the joy, the grief, the boredom, the love, from the unshakable ground of your own aware presence. Feel it all, let it flow through you, and remain, like the deep bed of the river, unchanged. You are now the keeper of your own temple. You tend the flame. You sweep the halls of your mind with the broom of mindfulness. You guard the gates with discernment. You open the doors with compassion. No one can do this for you. And no one can ever take it from you. It has been an honor to walk this part of the path with you. May the quiet wisdom we have touched become a wellspring within you, to which you can always return. May you move through your days not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived, with grace, with courage, and with an unshakable, gentle peace. Go in peace. The temple is within you. It always has been.